Did you endure it? The State of the Union with Joe Biden. We really should have just called it the Field of Dreams. You knew what it was going to be right from the very beginning. He comes out, he gets the standing ovation, he wants to posture himself as a wartime president without a war by swearing his undying support for Ukraine. In fact, the first 20 plus minutes of the State of the Union, I kept sitting there thinking, this is supposed to be the state of our union, not the state of Ukraine, not the state of Russia. It's supposed to be our union, the state of how we're doing. But then again, when you consider how we actually are doing, of course he couldn't come out and talk about that. But what really, I gotta be honest, angered me was watching, forgive me for saying it this way, these cuck Republicans standing up and applauding. I get it. This is that time where we have to show this united front that we're all standing against tyranny. As I've said before, and I'll say again, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, when we talk about the Russian-Ukraine conflict, number one, this so-called unprovoked Russian invasion, and they're acting like that the deaths didn't start until Russia crossed the border. What about the 8 years Ukraine was shelling two provinces within Ukraine? What about that? Again, I'm not saying that Putin had the right to do what he's doing. That's a separate issue. I have said, and I will keep on saying, Ukraine is an incredibly corrupt nation. Russia is corrupt. And so what you're asking us to do is not choose between the lesser of two evils, but rather the evil of two lessers. So the fact that he just went on this we're going to protect democracy in Ukraine while basically trashing our democracy here. Because what I would be interested to see is in about a week or so, when the Freedom Convoy ends up in Washington, D.C., when the truckers get there, let's see how they're treated. Let's see what gets done to them. Let's see if Joe Biden is going to take a page from the Justin Trudeau playbook and just absolutely strip these guys of their rights, freeze their bank accounts. You know, when they agree to step out of their trucks, are our police going to billy club them in the head, knee them and kick them when they're already on the ground in a surrendered position? Are we going to have bulldozers and cranes and tow trucks haul their trucks away? Are we going to make sure that they can't renew their driver's licenses, ever get vehicle insurance again? You know, what's going to happen to them as he then has the audacity, the gall to stand up there and lecture us ad nauseum on we must stand against tyranny, when the reality is the tyranny is happening right here. The tyranny is happening in places like Canada. No condemnation against that, but we're going to talk about basically two tyrannical regimes over and a part of the world that in reality this has been going on for years. But oh, how convenient that we push the State of the Union back so that Joe Biden had something to talk about besides his own failure. So that was the first 20 or so minutes of what we had to endure of the so-called State of the Union. But it's okay, friends, because I can promise you, when you turn on CNN or PMSNBC or the rest of the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media, and even certain talking heads over at Faux Pas News, formerly known as Fox News, why Biden's actually going to be given praise. It's good that we're going to be told he did an excellent job. Why, for over 2 hours, he was able to stand there and he didn't make any really big, huge faux pas. He just didn't. He didn't have any big gaffes tonight. I kind of expected him maybe to have one of those brain freeze moments. There were a couple of lines that he wanted to deliver, and had he actually gotten them off correctly, they would have been good. His base would have loved it. You would have given him a hat tip as far as delivering the speech and delivering the line, and it would have been kind of a drop mic moment. But of course, this is Joe Biden we're talking about, and he didn't have the gravitas or the ability to deliver the line. So, no harm, no foul there. But it won't stop the lying legacy media from praising what a wonderful job he did. Why? Because he was able to stand up there for a couple of hours, and of course, he got off a lot of applause lines. And again, the cuck Republicans giving him that stuff on Ukraine. But then, when he finally started to go through what he called his field of dreams. Now, again, a State of the Union is supposed to be about a president coming out and talking about all the things that he's done. That's usually the first 2/3 of what a State of the Union is supposed to be. Instead, some of you people on the left aren't going to like this. Joe Biden tonight, to me, sounded like George W. Bush. As he talked about Ukraine and why we had to do what we were doing with Ukraine and why we've got to increase the penalties against Russia and why we've got to be able to stand and endure. And he didn't really deal at all with inflation or supply issues here. Suffice to say that it's the sanctions and it's our patriotic democratic duty to endure this because this is how we're inflicting pain on Russia. That's all bullhawk, and it was all George Bush kind of stuff after 9/11 and the endless war on terror that ended up taking 20 plus years. Again, a State of the Union, you're supposed to go through, this is what I've done, we've done this, we've accomplished this, and this resulted in that, and that's why this is better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, Biden doesn't have any of that. So after the Ukraine thing, we went to the dream list. And certain things that he tried to take credit for, in reality, and I would challenge the fact checkers out there, check what Joe Biden, I'm serious about this, check what Joe Biden tried to take credit for accomplishing, and compare that to what Donald Trump actually did. And by that, what I mean is Biden did something that I got to admit, I didn't think he had the gonads to do it. I certainly didn't think he had the mental cognitive ability to do it. He's taking credit for Trump things. For example, when he talks about We've got to bring some real help now to everyday Americans. They're struggling. Well, duh, they're struggling because of you, Joe. They're struggling because of Biden economics and the fact that we've got runaway inflation and supply chain issues, and you've left our southern border wide open. You want to go defend the border of Ukraine? Why don't you defend our border? Because basically we've got this wide open door where we've said to everybody, just y'all come on in, and you can have free this, free health care, free food, free housing, free. We will take care of you for life because we're America. You come on in. Come on, bring me your, not as a Statue of Liberty would say, bring me your huddled masses. No. Bring me your drug lords. Bring me your drug mules. Bring me your sex traffickers. Bring me your human debris and just drop it off here in the U.S. and we'll just filter it out across the United States. I love what Ron DeSantis said at CPAC over the weekend, that in the state of Florida, they have actually drafted legislation that if any of these illegals get dumped in their midnight dumps in Florida, where the Biden administration down there at the border rounds them all up and then they spread them out across the country, that if they land or get deposited in Florida, DeSantis said, we're going to round them up and we're going to take them to Delaware or Hollywood and Washington, D.C. I love it. But Biden trying to talk about the economy, and we need to bring real help to people. And one of the things he said, and this just jumped out at me, and I literally started screaming at the screen, we have got to put a cap on insulin. And of course, he tells this heart-rending story, and he's got this kid that stands up that, is on insulin. Obviously, heart goes out to him. He's type 1 diabetes. I've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I understand about the battle of diabetes. And he said, and he's, of course, he's attacking the pharmaceutical company, that we pay more for prescription drugs than any blah, 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 blah. Well, really, all pharmaceuticals now should be free based on the windfall of cash that they got under the Biden administration for the big buys on Love Potion #9. But when he went off on this, we've got to cap insulin. This is life-saving and people have got to have it. Time out. Donald Trump did that. Donald Trump put a cap on the price of insulin. And one of the very first executive orders that Obama Biden issued right after he came into office, he rolled back and he ended the cap that Trump put on insulin. Ended it. So insulin went right through the roof as far as pricing, and now he is saying he wants Congress to act, and right now we are going to put a cap on insulin. And the Democrats are applauding, and some of the cuck Republican rhinos were applauding, and in reality, we already had that. It was done under Trump, and now it was then ended under Biden, and now Biden is going to reinstate a Trump policy and take a victory lap for it. And then, of course, when he started taking credit for 6 million new jobs in the last year, more than any other presidential administration, that is pure bullhock, my favorite word, but it's a canard, it's a prevarication, it's an outright lie. They did not create 6 million jobs. What it was is workers who were furloughed because of Democratic governors' extensive lockdowns. When they were finally able to go back to work, that was all it was, is people returning to the job market. It was not new jobs created. In fact, in reality, we are still, I believe it's a couple of million jobs still short of where we were pre-pandemic. And then he had the audacity to start talking about manufacturing here in America and making it here in America. He said everything but make America great again. He said everything but America first. But he talked about the companies need to start building and manufacturing here and blah, 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 blah. Well, there's a reason they can't, Joe. Number one, you haven't laid out a path. You never said how that was going to be done. You never explained how that you're going to entice these businesses to stay here. Donald Trump did. Donald Trump, when he was president-elect, began immediately meeting with corporate leaders and CEOs and renegotiating contracts and telling places like Ford Motor Company and Carrier air conditioning that you start building plants overseas, we are going to put massive tariffs on everything that you build there and then try to bring here to sell. And Shazam, Batman, all of a sudden they decided to manufacture here. But Joe, you and your administration and your Democratic ilk, you put so many regulations on manufacturers about the way things have to be made, and it's got to do this, and it's got to do that, and you got a tax on top of this tax, and a safety this, and a safety. They aren't going to be able to afford to manufacture here, Joe. So you were just blowing smoke. But again, this whole trying to talk about we're going to build America and we're going to make it American. That's racist. Well, at least that's what we were told by Nancy Botox Pelosi and Chuck E. Cheese Schumer and AOC and the rest of the squad when Donald Trump said things like America first. We were told it was racist. We were told you can't talk like that. This is vile. This is awful. But Obama Biden was able to do that tonight. It was just unbelievable. But again, morning schmuck on PMSNBC and his pole dancing wife, Mika Brzezinski. Tomorrow morning, there's no doubt they will just faint over what a wonderfully inspiring and uplifting and blah, 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 blah puke. The whole thing was just lie on top of lie. And then, of course, he kept coming back to, we're gonna trade our dependence on foreign oil for electric cars. Oh, you mean coal? You got to mine a whole lot of coal to make batteries and to make battery-operated cars. So, he talked about they're going to release, what did he say? I can't remember now if it was 30 million or 60 million, 60 million barrels of oil from our strategic stockpile. Wow. He did that once before, back around Christmas time. He released like 60 billion barrels of oil. It's funny. You know, Donald Trump worked hard to replenish our stockpile, and basically Biden's going to empty it right out. But here's the thing. Do you understand how much oil we go through? What's 60 million barrels going to last us? 2 weeks? Because when he did this before, gas went down, what, a nickel? I mean, literally went down like a nickel, maybe 8 cents. You know, in California, you know, they're paying almost $6 a gallon now because of all the other taxes they have on top of it. I mean, it's for something where I live for super unleaded. So, you know, what's the 60? We're buying 500,000 barrels of oil a day from Russia. 500,000 barrels a day we buy from Russia. But you're talking about getting tough with Russia and sanctions and this and that. And in reality, all you have to do is turn our oil back on, Joe. Turn our oil production back on. Under Donald J. Trump, we were free from being dependent on foreign oil. Completely free from it. You've made us dependent again. Do you know that right now, to replace what we're buying from Russia, do you know what the Biden administration is doing? They tried to negotiate with Saudi Arabia to get the price down, and basically Saudi Arabia, you know, told them to go pound sand. We're getting ready now to stop buying our oil from Russia and buy it instead from Iran. We just keep emboldening and paying for these enemies of the U.S. We fund them, we finance them, and then after a while, when our military industrial complex springs into action, you know, we want to pull off a military coup because, you know, we got to spend money, you know, to make more weapons, and let's topple a regime, kind of like we did in 2014 over in Ukraine under the Obama administration. We pulled off a coup. We got rid of a duly elected government. And what was their big crime? Well, they liked Russia still. They were independent, but they wanted to keep their ties with Russia. So out they went. We, you know, again, we toppled a sovereign nation's government. And because a couple of provinces within Ukraine decided, whoa. We don't want this government. We want the government that we actually voted for. So they wanted to be back in association with Russia. And so the new government of Ukraine for the past 8 years has bombed them, has shelled them, has blockaded them. And that gave Putin the excuse to be able to step in and say, that's enough. That's enough. And we get so indignant, and even the cuck Republicans so indignant. They have no right to interfere in a sovereign nation. How many sovereign nations do we mess with and topple regimes? That doesn't mean that they're great regimes. It doesn't mean that these weren't sometimes led by nasty individuals doing nasty things. But where do we get the right to step in and decide this country needs a new regime, which means friendly to us and buying all of our crap to prop up our economy so we can somehow rape them economically? So then, of course, you know, somehow it delved into, he actually went after his own party over defund the police. That was actually kind of fun to watch. But he's talking about now we need more police. And you know why we need more police? It's not about cracking down on, you know, the most peaceful protests and burning American cities and, you know, people taking to the streets over, you know, racism. It has nothing to do with that. No. They can continue to burn and loot, and, you know, we don't care. Biden's a little nervous that the grassroots of America, that the patriots of America, that the people that love this country are rising up. I'm telling you, this trucker convoy, where we're going to need more cops to crack their skulls. That's what that's about. That's what that's about. And so, watching him take victory laps for things that Trump did, child tax credits and other things, was just off the rails, unconscionable. But again, the lying legacy media, they're going to give him big points up. And, he was, when I finally turned him off after about an hour and 20 minutes, he was on some kind of gun control rant. And you don't need a magazine that holds 10 rounds. It's not like deer wear Kevlar. Like, here we go. We're just going to fall back on typical talking points. What any of that had to do with the quote, State of the Union. But he said this, and this is when I got really angry. The gun manufacturers are the only businesses in America that can't be sued, and we're going to change that. Oh, really? Well, first of all, big fat fact check. In fact, I'll be the fact checker on this one. Lie. A gun manufacturer can be sued if the gun actually malfunctions. If I'm discharging a firearm and it blows up in my hand and causes damage to me, if a gun fires when nothing was done to the trigger, that's a malfunction. That gun manufacturer can be sued. What can't happen is if a street thug takes a hammer and bangs a little old woman over the head while she's walking home one night and kills her so he can steal the money in her pocketbook. You don't sue Craftsman or Stanley Tools or whoever made the hammer for creating this, quote, lethal weapon that took this little old woman's life. Let's sue Stanley. Let's sue Craftsman into the ground. It's the same thing with a gun. If I run over somebody with my car on purpose, you can't sue Ford or Chevy or Toyota. Now, if the car malfunctions and that relates in someone's death, then yes, the manufacturer can be sued. But where he was a big fat check lie when he said gun manufacturers are the only company in America that can't be sued. Lie. Because in truth, the only companies right now that cannot be sued in the United States, come on, say it with me, people. Say it. I know it's right on the tip of your tongue. Come on, somebody put it in the comments section right now. Who is it right now? What business entity in this country cannot be sued no matter how much problems there could be? Because we can't talk about it here on YouTube or I'll get censured and removed. Big Pharma. Big Pharma can't be sued. So the straw man argument early on when he was attacking Big Pharma over the outrageous prices of pharmaceutical, why do we pay more, blah, 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 blah. And then he talked about what a wonderful job Big Pharma has done in getting COVID under control. And he's got 4 things now we're going to do. Oh, by the way, just yesterday, they lifted the indoor mask mandates for Congress just in time for the State of the Union. But of course, the science changed. Isn't that what we're going to be told by the sorority girl that's the director of the CDC? Isn't that what we're going to be told by Dr. Fauci Stein, the evil love child of Dr. Kevorkian? Well, the science has changed. No, nothing's changed. It was political expediency. The wearing the hat is the virtue signal. And they didn't want the hat on. They want to project the optics of Joe Biden is winning. He's winning. And he's even beaten the virus. So now all of us, and he was talking about, we got to get kids, they got to stay in school, and we got to get, this was Joe Biden, so YouTube, listen, don't take me down. It was Joe Biden saying the masks have got to come off everywhere. But Big Pharma can't be sued. But he lied and said gun manufacturers can't be sued. That's a complete lie. This whole thing was, I got to admit, Biden did better than I thought, and by that I mean he could actually stand there and talk. He didn't pause much. He even kind of talked through some of the applause lines. And again, I'm sorry, You can think this is mean or you're picking on him. This is a guy who's got definite mental cognitive issues. Now, I know some of you disagree with me. You like to text things to me and you like to comment here, oh, no, this old guy's as sharp as a tack. Don't fall for it. Well, you know, there are times I have wondered, and I've even said in some of my commentaries here, is he really off? Or is he like one of those mafia bosses who, for years, you know, committed just vile crimes and ordered the deaths of people? And then when they finally, the government gets enough on them to haul them in, you know, they come into the courtroom, you know, in a wheelchair with an oxygen tank, and they look all old and feebly, and the jury sits there and thinks, well, how could that poor old man do anything bad to anyone? And the whole thing is an act. And sometimes you wonder, is it an act with Joe? But no, I don't really believe it is. I don't really believe it is. The fact that he was talking and staying the way he was and just kind of kept moving, I don't know what it is they give him to make him semi-alert, but it was one of those, you've got some issues and you know you got some decline there, you just kind of, okay, your focus is read what I got here and don't get distracted and don't get sidebarred. Just keep plunging through. Of course, you know, we were treated to a couple of, when my dad, you know, apparently his dad was a progressive back in the 50s who didn't have any problem with homosexual rights. And again, I've told you this before, no Democrat, even back in the 1950s, that was just not the way Americans thought. But, you know, because Joe Biden is a pathological liar when he was talking about, you know, we need to make childcare affordable for all Americans. I was a single dad who had to raise kids without the help of a wife. Yeah, you did a real great job with Hunter. Maybe you should have taken time off and stayed home with him. Hey, he could have used a little fatherly, you know, guidance and training in those key years, Joe. That's pretty apparent. But again, when he talks about we're gonna make child care affordable, what he never does is what no Democrat ever does. He never says, well, how? How? You know, when he talked about, you know, so many families, you know, the wife had to give up her job so she could stay home with the kids during COVID because they couldn't afford child care. Well, why were the kids home, Joe? They didn't need to be. They didn't need to be. They should have been in school. But again, this is what it was. And no, I wasn't going to waste time and do a full production and put in clips of Joe and explain it all. I thought I would just come on here, do this live tonight without any extra production, no theme music, etc., etc. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And remember, I do appreciate all of you. I don't have merchandise that I sell here. My channel is not monetized here on YouTube. It's monetized on Rumble, but I don't get enough views on Rumble to you know, warrant, you know, big payout. I don't do this for the money. This is I appreciate you being there. Thank you so much. Please tell your friends about us because the algorithms here at YouTube aren't going to promote this channel. And I do read your comments. I do appreciate your insight. I thank you so very, very, very much. And together, we are going to weather this storm. We are going to move forward. If any of you have ever listened to my radio show, as we do the introduction, one of the things that I say, that I am here to stand for truth, justice, and the preservation of the American way, because it is under assault like never before from the left. Good night. God bless you.